Oromo Voice Radio English Program. Oromo Voice Radio is broadcasting to Oromia at 16-meter band or 17,850 kilohertz or on oromovoice.org website. OVR broadcasts Oromia Insight program every Monday for 15 minutes at 7:15 p.m. Oromia local time. Welcome to Oromia Insight program.
Oromia is a country in East Africa well known as the Horn of Africa. It's 600,000 square kilometers, making it larger than France, Italy, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Oromia is populated by over 40 million people. It's the origin of human race and the Gada system. Oromia is the birthplace of coffee and home to world-class athletes. Also is a nation with multi-faith society, Christianity, Islam, and Waqifana. Oromia is the third largest single nation in Africa and the single largest nation in East Africa. It has been occupied by Ethiopia for over 130 years and is struggling for self-determination. Oromia has an uncounted number of Oromo refugees living in other countries.
Welcome to Oromia Insight. My name is Aliye Geleto. This is part 2 interview we had with Yasmin Hassan. Yasmin Hassan is a third culture adult-born Oromo parent. As someone who was born cynic and raised as a skeptic, Yasmin is driven by a need to engage in critical thought and discourse. Throughout her work history, she has engaged in numerous settings that have allowed her to interact with different communities on a variety of platforms to get an informed and a comprehensive picture of national and international communities. Experience in the issues. Interested in experience of visible minority in diasporic setting, Yasmin academic career began with master by research degree in political science and international study from Monash University, where she first became seriously interested in and increasingly delusioned by the narrative about visible minority in academia. She has worked mainly on the experience of young Muslims in the West. However, you choose to define it in a post-September 11 security climate. In this part 2 interview, we discuss about identity, belonging, living in diaspora, politics, and security. We talk about identity and belonging. Do you feel like you belong here?
Here is in Australia or here is
in Australia?
Look, it's a tough question. There are moments that, I'm extremely, not extremely happy, but I'm content to be here. It's a blessing because there are times, I came to Australia with my parents and 2 siblings, and I seriously don't think I'd be where I am today if I was either back at home or somewhere in Somalia, languishing in a refugee camp in Uganda or in Kenya. No doubt. And for that, I'm grateful. But I think most people who've come here through, a humanitarian program, we're all Australians by circumstance. And it's a circumstance worth clapping our hands for, let's just be real. And there are other moments when I think I'd rather be almost anything else. And it's really, it's a difficult thing, but I'm not going to clap my hands and thank Australia for being here. I'm just going to clap my hands because even, let's say, for example, if we did come here through the humanitarian program, we could have easily been. We are where we are in spite of the system. That's what I'm trying to say. Most African countries in Australia are doing well, not because of the system, because of the structural systems in place, but in spite of it. And, we'd had to fight equally hard, if not harder than others who've come through the same processes as we have to get where we are.
What does identity mean to you?
Identity means, might be cheesy, probably being comfortable with where you are at the point in time. And it is also about flexibility because identity is extremely fluid and it is responsive to external and internal stimuli, and it's about an articulation of self in response to something else.
So for Oromos and diaspora, when Oromos actually say I'm Oromo, I'm from Oromia, number one, they have to explain themselves for 5 minutes. Some of them they just avoid it because they don't want to do that. For those who actually dare enough to say actually I'm Oromo and from Oromia, and then they will be challenged, and some people actually get disappointed. Have you come across someone who actually, if you say I'm Oromo, anyone not happy with that, or if it is, do you know why?
Look, I'm not responsible for other people's feelings. So for a long time, it has been easy to say I'm Ethiopia because everyone can pinpoint that on a bloody map. And not only that, it's not like an identity like the Palestinians, even though, right now Palestine isn't a sovereign state. People know about the struggle. It's been at the forefront politically and subconsciously of every Tom, Dick and Harry since, the 1920s. And it's played out differently since then. But, the Oromo struggle, which is perhaps even older than that of the Palestinian struggle, no one knows about it. So people would ask you, is it a region? Is it a language? Is it culture? And then you'd have to go, no, we are a group of people, 40 million plus just within Oromia. We have our own customs, we have our own dialects, we're a language, both we have a written form and an oral form. And we're all walking encyclopedias. And I think it's one thing we should all embrace. One, it teaches you the responsibility of your own culture and your own history. And in turn, you're also able to impart something without the filter of the television or the media that, the Palestinian struggle has. So it's an extremely blurred, and it's a fantastic opportunity that both the young and old, and I think it's a disservice that, I'm going to be picking on, the elders in the community. They didn't teach, they have so much pride, and that's fantastic, but they've been silent, and they haven't imparted some of that. They haven't they taught us the language, fantastic. They've taught us our food and our culture and our dance, but they haven't told us our politics, they haven't taught us our history, they haven't taught us that it is continuing, and that the struggle is real, if I could use a colloquial statement, and that everyone in Diaspora has a responsibility to those back home, even if it's to tell someone else when they're asked, where are you from, to say, I am Oromo, from Oromia, and this is who we are and what we are.
Living in Diaspora, for example, Oromos, we have very, 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 very few Oromos in Diaspora. At the same time, not many people actually know the Oromia. You want to identify yourself as Oromo. Many people don't know about it, and you have a responsibility to actually the world know, and you got a responsibility to actually educate yourself, help the family. There is a lot of things actually an Oromo actually has to do in Diaspora. How living in Diaspora is for Oromos compared to others?
And by others, who do you mean specifically?
Others, like people who actually come from Horn Africa, like Somali or other Ethiopians or Kenyans, or compared to others, is there any difference?
Well, I mean the Eritreans, the Djiboutians, the Kenyans, they all have. I mean, from an international relations perspective, there is nothing more treasured than state sovereignty, and being internationally recognized as a nation state. They have that, and it seems, irrespective of all, the strife that is going on in Somalia, between, there's a Somaliland and all that other stuff. When someone says, I am Somalian, it's easy to find that on a map. You can't find Oromia on a map. So we have that burden, we have that struggle. But, beyond that, I reckon our diasporic experiences from other Horn of African countries is parallel. So we have the whole remittance, we send back money home to help support our families because the government is inept to do so. Foreign aid is just another trap for East African countries or for the global South. And it's a state of self-reliance and self-sufficiency. And Diaspora has, everyone's got connections somewhere back home. And we continue that legacy through that. So there are multiple similarities, but the biggest difference is that, the nation state. And many people would think, who cares? You don't need to be recognized in order to feel as though you belong. But in the way politics works internationally, and the way foreign direct investment works internationally, yes, you do.
So you study politics. How do you define politics?
Look, anyone can define it however they choose to. I mean, I remember my father used to tell us, our very existence is political. Being human is being a person is a political statement. So where there are two people, there's politics, and it doesn't always, as initially said, doesn't always have to be negative. It could be. It's just how the way world works. The world works.
What's the relationship between politics, security, and the economy?
The relationship is probably stronger than Adam and Eve's relationship, I reckon. Or just as strong as Adam and Eve's relationship. I mean, look, the world works with money, the world works with power, and he who controls the gold, controls, really. And you can transfer gold for oil, you can transfer gold for water, you can transfer gold for money, and you get the person who's in power. And that's the simplistic explanation.
Once I remember you got a big power in Victoria in Australia. You were a Victorian Multicultural Commissioner, Youth Commissioner. You've been in power for 2 years, I think. How that feels?
I think it was a great opportunity. Little old me applied at the 11th hour, and it all came together. Looking back, I think it's fantastic. There are multiple learning opportunities, professionally and both personally. It was fantastic. It was fantastic for networking. Most of the people that I met there, people in positions of power, I am still in touch with, and that's because networking is about maintaining relationships and post your posts, right? Look, if anyone is here in Victoria is interested in pursuing anything close to that, I'm happy to be a guide or to be a cheerleader, really, from the background.
That's really amazing. We are about to run out of time. What do you say to the young Oromos in the African community growing up in diaspora, particularly in Australia? What they have to do to navigate the system to be where they want to be?
I think they've got to be extremely skeptical, honest with what they want, and be willing to work twice as hard for the same amount of recognition as anybody else, sadly, and be willing to work outside the community in order to give back to the community. Even if your interest isn't to give back to the community, being sheltered or in a bubble-like experience won't pay off in the long term, both personally and professionally. And look, just be open to trying new things and meeting new people and being true to your multiple selves, because we all have multiple selves. That's
really amazing. So now, are you different because you are educated now, educated woman?
Are you trying to provoke an argument or something? I mean, it's a difficult question to answer because I've only ever been what I am. So, and I can't imagine me. I don't think my father would want to imagine me as an uneducated woman, so I don't know. I can't answer that question clearly.
Really, we really appreciate coming and sharing all this experience about education, gender, religion, identity and belonging, living in diaspora, politics and the security. It's really a pleasure talking to you, Yasmin. I hope in the future we'll discuss more deep, especially about politics, about Oromo politics. I think there is no many people actually did politics in diaspora. Just knew a couple of them, but I hope you're gonna come in the debate with somebody else who actually did politics about how the Oromo politics will be improved in the future. For today, I really appreciate for coming and talking to us on Oromia Insight.
You're extremely welcome, and hopefully it turns out really well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.